then you can read this in details later. We have only like 90 minutes for everything. Maybe we can go a little bit longer, but then I think there are so many things that we need to cover. So I will concentrate on this concept of hikikomori, the Japanese data on hikikomori, and the community approach on hikikomori. So the concept of hikikomori, first you have the definitions of a social condition in which people avoid social participation and having relationships with people besides family members by confining themselves to a room or the house for 6 months and more. So the term actually refers to both the condition itself and the people who suffer from it. Okay. So now I want to ask everyone. So myths or facts? Hikikomori never goes out from the room. Who thinks it? Which is wrong?
Yes, I will ask once more. Lütfen mikrofonlarımızı kapatalım for the turning off the microphones. Yes, but maybe we can write from the chat part. Sohbet kısmına yazabilirsiniz.
Anyone want to give me right or wrong, or neither?
Excuse me?
Anyone want to say right or wrong, neither?
Can you ask the question again, please?
Do you think this is, these are myths or these are facts? Hikikomori never goes from the room. Hikikomori is characterized by Japanese mental, and hikikomori has no association with mental health. Hikikomori is only considered a problem after a period for 6 months. Good. We have a lot of myths here. And then hikikomori is acute. There's no pre-symptom to the behavior. Today you see them, tomorrow you don't. No explanation. Mm-hmm. So myths or facts? Okay, we have 3 people saying myths. Okay, and the answer is, okay, good. And everybody thinks that's myths, right? So, yeah, they're all myths. So, I'll give you some epidemiological factors of what hikikomori is. First, we need to look into the prevalence. So, we have 3 major cabinet surveys on what on the prevalence of hikikomori. So, the first 2 surveys was done in 2010 and 2015 on adolescents, young adults, 15 to 39. So if you look into this, we have 1.79%, 1.57%, and then in 2017, we began to research on hikikomori. Are there elder hikikomori as well, people who over 40s? So we find that it's 1.45%. So that brings us an estimation of how much. It's 115. It's about 1,150,000 people in Japan at working age who are thought to be hikikomori. So, and you can look into others. We have people 1.2% who had recovered from lifetime hikikomori. And then we also have almost 0.56% of households who have at least one ongoing hikikomori child. And so is Japan the only place with hikikomori? No, we have it in other cultures as well, especially in Asian culture, probably, or maybe not even Asian culture, because you can see that we have in Hong Kong, we have in Oman, we have in France, we have in Spain, Canada, and Australia. In fact, my very first case of hikikomori was an Austrian guy. Now he's no longer hikikomori, but he still needs hikikomori lifestyle because he thinks that hikikomori time is the best time that he would have because he can spend all his time playing his games, you know, being himself, not to think about the trouble of interact with others. But he tells me would never go back into hikikomori again, because he actually understands that having a job gives him more self-esteem, and also give him more leeway in financial, so that he can buy things that he wants. So we can actually see that hikikomori is all over the place. And we actually have a Japanese psychiatrist who is Kato, and he's one of the leading hikikomori researcher in psychiatry as well. So he actually, his first hikikomori research is asking the psychiatrists around the world if they have seen hikikomori problem. And many people say that they would probably think that the hikikomori, people who have hikikomori are overlooked in psychiatric practice. So now, the relationship between hikikomori and mental health. If you look at that, we have comorbidities. We do have schizophrenia, developmental disorder, mood disorder, and social anxiety disorder. And this is the study that Ando makes. But you can also see that people who have presented to the health centers, usually there are more difficult cases. And even among these difficult cases, probably mixed with violences, and you can only see that, only 14% of them were actually being diagnosed as schizophrenia, mood disorder, and anxiety disorder. And you probably have a bunch of it who are developmental disabilities, but others would be personality disorder, chronic form of adjustment disorder, and social form disorders as well. And you can see almost half of them, even they try very hard to understand or to give them a diagnosis, but there's actually no diagnosis at all. So when we look into hikikomori, we have this primary hikikomori and secondary hikikomori. When we say primary hikikomori is the people without diagnosis, then later they probably have this develop other comorbidities, and then they become tertiary hikikomori. And you have secondary hikikomori here, who are probably originally they were not hikikomori, but they have other mental illness or developmental abilities that cause them, that actually cause difficulties in social relationship that makes them hikikomori. Is it clear here? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then I go to the second one. So many people actually ask the relationship between hikikomori and internet addiction. So this is very typical internet addiction. And sometimes we can actually see hikikomori in that as well. But in an internet survey that I've done in 2012, we actually sampled through the nations, and sorry about this cutoff, this is hikikomori, and this is internet addiction. And we can see internet addiction and hikikomori, there are no overlapping. They probably have possible addictions like a longer time, using internet, but then there's actually not at the threshold of addictions. And look into the differences between hikikomori and internet addictions. You can see that hikikomori, they probably have friends, but it's just that they don't open up to their friends. They hardly talk to friends, they have no trusted friends. But for internet addictor, you probably don't even have a single friend at all. And also probably being bullied. But there are also similar factors between internet addictions and hikikomori, which is school refusals, poor relationships with teachers in schools. So Ayse asked me about the impact of pandemic.
Yes, because the current questions were about unemployment, pandemics, and what will happen after that. when I took the registrations, people were curious about the future.
In fact, there's actually a relationship between hikikomori and jobless. Well, of course, hikikomori doesn't go to work and doesn't go to school, so it looks like hikikomori by default they don't have work, right? So what is the big hack? But if you look into when hikikomori began to create attention or have the attention is actually the same time when you have this employment age. If you look at Japan, Japan looks very successful to many countries, and yes, but then we do have this bubble economy. And there's a time when this bubble economy actually bursts, when many people doesn't have jobs. And in Japan, it talks about, it actually requires people to, it's not requires, but it's kind of like the norm. And you need to find a job much where you graduate, before much where you graduate, and then you go into work straight away in April. But this does not really happen during employment age. In fact, even in Tokyo University, the most stage university, you probably have about like only 1/3 of them who actually got a job before they graduate. So this is very different from the previous norm when the economic was good, when employment was good. So with pandemic, probably you will experience what we experienced in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so hikikomori, I would say, is probably a mixed phenomenon. And this is the most recent publications that I submitted, and this is the data on Akita in a rural area of Japan. So when we look into the total, and we look into the men, and we look into women, all these have been adjusted by the social demographic practice. Mm-hmm. And you look into the men that have severe mental illness, and they probably have emotional distress, and they will have passive suicide ideation. But you don't see that in women that much. You see that more in men. But then, again, when you see in total, you have emotional distress, loneliness, and isolation, which this is probably reflecting what the women experience as well. Hikikomori kind of manifests in both sectors, but it can be a bit different. So let's see what are the differences. When you look into men, again, when we added up, you look at this one, the social, psychological well-being factors. When we added them together, putting it as an aggregated social, psychological well-being risk factors, men is actually very high, 1.21. But you can also see that this homeless and jobless, or homemakers among women and jobless among women, they actually need a separate analysis, and it's also the same. It's almost 2.5 for both categories. We can see that being a homemaker and jobless, you tend to fall into the category of not meeting people or not having social interactions with others for more than, probably 6 months, a year, 3 years, and more than that. But you can see the impact is greater on men. Probably that is because of the traditional responsibility that we need to have on men. Men would be a rice maker. You earn money for the family, and when you started to earn, you become a man, and if you don't have that, you're not a man. So those kind of things actually impact the whole nation. And we are taking this data from rural Japan, which is agriculture area, which means it can be even more. So hikikomori is getting older. And yes, we are getting older. And in fact, you can see in 2018, we have more average of hikikomori who are in their 33.5 years old. Okay. And we actually have parents associations with hikikomori. Can you imagine that?
Because they need help, I think.
Yes. But then this parents association that actually existed very early, that is about in early 2000. And we will also talk about the overprotecting factors of families. And you can see the parents are very protective about their children. And of course also because many people actually doesn't know why their children doesn't go to work. And when the initial period of, you need to understand that the people who joined this hikikomori parents association, they were probably from more affluent families, which means more of the middle class upper, and higher, higher class people.
You mean, did it start with the higher class parents at the first? Okay.
Yes, it started with the higher class of the parents, like CEOs, because you really need to pay quite a high annual subscription fees.
Yes, it's reasonable. Yeah.
So what they wanted to do is they wanted to create awareness, and then because they felt so alone being as a parent, and then they need to have other parents to talk about things, and then also they want to mobilize the government to give them more social stability. As you know that, you can see they have been fighting for almost 30 years right now, 20 years right now. And then you can see that the family members who regularly attend the money meeting is about 544. The total number of the members these days is about 3,800. So a little than 4,000. So you can see about like 1/10 of them are regularly attending the monthly meeting. And then you can see that there are also hikikomori people themselves who actually join the parents as well. To try to speak for themselves. These are the average age. And then you can see the sufferer information and parents' information are actually not so different, but you can see there's a 1-year delay.
Yeah.
And then this is the population pyramid in Japan. And you can see that we are not very healthy. And then we have this rising number of people who have this non-employed children who are in their 50s, living with their parents who are in 80s. So in these non-employed people, a large amount of them are probably hikikomori, or probably half of them at least are hikikomori people. So what can we do with this?
Yes.
So is it okay?
Yes, yes, it's okay. Just give a few break. Erhan asks, Erhan Doğan is one of the academicians from Marmara University.
Okay.
Erhan Hocam, social politics, I might say. And can you see the question over there on the chat session? He asks about the correlation between the total education years and hikikomori. He asks that if it's high among the people who are exposed to longer periods of education.
Okay, we are going to this in the second slide.
That's good. Okay.
I think for okay, we'll discuss this.
Okay, thank you.
So let us talk about what research findings about. So some of my previous work that leads me to what I do today, and I will explain this a little more, and actually explain some of this in the part of the presentations. I will explain this a little bit more later.
Okay.
So, okay, now we go to the data first. So I will explain the cabinet findings on hikikomori, how do they diagnose hikikomori, and what are the people who actually consider as hikikomori. So I did a secondary analysis of the findings. And you need to know there are 8 questions that were asked to the participants. These are the 8. And you select one based on your daily outgoing patterns. So people who selected these 4, they will become hikikomori. I mean, they will be considered as hikikomori. And of course, in the first cabinet study, what they did was they excluded the people who have schizophrenia. So schizophrenia are not included. Housewives are not included. I mean, housewives who are not included as well. If they say that they don't go out, it's because they're doing child raising, family care, caretakers. So these people are not considered. So these are very plain hikikomori. Probably have other mental illness, but not schizophrenia.
You told about the housewives. What about the other women who are working or having education? Are they included?
They are included.
Okay.
So we will have, even for hikikomori, they will have different stages. for Tamura, Tamura just now, he's one of our participants. He would be in the first category. And then for Mika, she would be on the third category.
Yes.
And there was one point was in the fourth category. Okay. So we will answer questions. Is it more men than women are hikikomori? Would it be more dropouts? Would it be possible influence of residential characteristics? What are the limitations? And please read this later. So we will go into the data.
Okay.
Yes, there are more men who are hikikomori. And then in education, we have this, when we look into social class, we don't really see a difference between hikikomori and non-hikikomori. But with education, we will see that there are people who are more from dropouts and people who take the time off from the study. This one doesn't really answer the question that your colleague had asked.
Yes.
But there was another data that I did. We do have more hikikomori in graduate schools.
Graduate schools, okay.
Yeah, who drop out from graduate schools.
Not the universities.
Not universities.
Okay, okay. So
Graduate.
it's not totally related to the length of the education. Is
Not really. I think it's more about, it depends. Like you see, there was a mix between economic and mental health and mental states. Right? So if they spend more time in studying, but at the end they don't get a job, it would be much more easier for people to go back home because of shame and embarrassment, and actually because there was no job available.
And feeling unsuccessful and
yes, right.
unfulfilled. Yes, I see. Okay.
Yes. If you don't have job for like 2 years, you don't have a job for 2 years. If you compare a person who is lower graduate, I mean high school graduate, middle school graduate, and you compare with graduate,
yes,
it would be very different.
Okay.
A graduate wouldn't go to McDonald's and do a part-time job.
Yes, and he will be or she will be satisfying. Yes, but on the other hand, the one who is waiting for the work will stay more at home, I guess. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So we actually have this. This is one thing that I really want to have your attention. We can see that hikikomori, although it says that there are primary, there should is probably not so much related to mental illness, but then you can see there's actually a history of psychiatric treatment in in almost 40% of them.
Yes.
And then you can see that when we compare city sizes, area, there's no differences, but then there's one difference with neighborhood characteristics. If you look into the shops and service industry, sorry about this red highlighted, this is strong. It's supposed to be the shops and service industries.
Okay.
Yeah, and you see that hikikomori appear significantly less. In places we have more shops and service industries.
Can you explain it a little bit more? When there are more shops and service industries around the household, is it less or more hikikomori?
Less.
Less. Okay.
Yes, significantly less.
Less. Okay.
Yeah. So we will discuss that a little bit later. Okay. And then you can see that in risks like feeling guilty, life is separated, disappointment, wishing to die, hopelessness, and even self-harm is more in the hikikomori than the non-hikikomori. But we also need to be aware of the term self-harm, because actually not many people have self-harm, but it's just that it's still significantly more when you compare to the non-hikikomori. Violence tendencies, if you look into the media exposures, every time hikikomori being highlighted in the media is always when there's crime. But if you look into the normal hikikomori, I mean in their everyday life, it's probably not that much of violence. You don't really see that. The most they do things is probably destroy things, like, throw my dishes away and do this. So it's actually quite peaceful. Yeah. So when we look into the most is probably interpersonal difficulties, like afraid of meeting others. And there were also questions about if hikikomori has any connections with social phobia. Actually, we had a study group that tried to compare hikikomori with social phobia, but we didn't find any similarities. There was no relationships. And then it becomes clearer when we do this secondary analysis. It says that I'm anxious about the possibility of meeting people that I know. So this is very different with social phobia, because social phobia is more about meeting strangers.
Yes, and I would like to ask a question. Why are they afraid of or anxious about the possibility of meeting the people that they know?
Yeah, because they have very low self-affirmation, and then they have very low self-evaluation, that they base their self-perceptions on others' perceptions. And what affects the Japanese most, or the people most, is people who know them.
So it's the people's perception is very important than their own perception of themselves.
Correct.
And do you think that it depends on the culture a lot? Is a cultural thing? Or
right. It's a culture of how they're being brought up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's a culture. It's a culture of childbearing attitude. Okay. Okay. I see.
We will go a little bit more in depth and talk about the qualitative part.
Okay.
So let's see. So we also check compulsive behaviors, but we don't actually see connections with the very typical OCD behavior, like cleaning, wash your hands.
Yes.
Not really much of that, but it's more over like double checking things. Did I forget something, or the repetitive thoughts. And the repetitive thoughts here is also a bit different. It can probably be like keep playing the scene. Like yesterday, I talked to a group of friends. So what happened? Did I say something wrong? Did I say something right? What if I say a different thing? So we keep repeating the same thing every day, every time. It's like just self-blaming, self-checking kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think
can we name them as rumination? Is it similar to rumination?
Rumination?
Yes.
What is rumination?
Rumination is the repetitive thoughts of the past, your relationships, your thoughts about people, the things that have passed, but your feelings about the memories, and it's an important phenomenon of a depressive disorder kind of thinking. When we look from the part of behavioral and cognitive psychotherapies. So it reminds me of the ruminative, repetitive thoughts. Yes.
Yes. It's quite that.
Yes.
So
okay.
Hikikomori is very similar with depressive, but then they are not so much depressed. I mean, they don't really fulfill the whole criteria of major depressive disorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then like dependencies. So you can say they are heavily dependent on medications. So let's check. So this one, we have already talked about it. And then this one we can also skip. And then now we talk about this interpersonal relationship. Just now I should talk about like why it is about meeting the people who they know. I think it's about the fear of not meeting expectations. When you meet a stranger, there's no expectations.
Yes.
But you meet someone that you know, or people who knows you, they would expect you to be, to do this, to do that. And it's just so the culture in, I don't know about Turkey, but then it's a culture in Japan that if you are at this age, you do this thing. If at this stage, you do this thing. And everybody do kind of like do things at the same time.
Yes, it's somehow quite similar, maybe in the suburban areas or small towns or cities, but not in the big cities, I guess. But there's somehow more or less a kind of society rule, so conformity rules of the relations. Exactly the, for example, exams, university, having a job. It looks quite similar.
Yeah, glad that it is similar.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also a sense of humiliation. You can see that they have this actually self-identity, which is very poor self-identity that developed during the early adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that as well. So it's also to maintain the positive opinion of others and to preserving the ideal image of the expected self.
Mm-hmm. So it starts bit by bit from the adolescent stage.
Yes, it is. It is. In fact, it is. And you look at what Suwa and Suzuki and our study, if you compare both of us, we did the studies on that. I think Suwa says that the defeat without a struggle, but without that, they actually have multiple defeats with internal struggles. And then Suwa thinks that avoiding all competitive things to preserve ideal self, but we see them as avoiding failures to avoid failing expectations of others. And then they see them as they create their ideal image based on others' expectations. It's true, but we also felt that they struggle to hold up to others' expectations. Yeah. So suicide risk is higher, and then suicide is actually highest among the young adults in Japan. And suicide is the leading cause of death among people aged 20 to 39 years old. And then almost 1/3 of suicide occur in the undefined, unemployed group. When you say undefined, unemployed group, it actually could be very much as hikikomori.
Yes, it could have an overlap with this special group, I guess.
Yeah. And then you see that expressions of violence is more inward and towards self. Well, we do say larger populations of hikikomori have self-harming behavior, but again, it's only like about 10% of them, not a lot. Yeah. But still in the normal population, probably like 1%. So you're talking about like 8% to 1%. So it's still a lot. So, okay. Psychiatric treatment. Is it harmful or is it beneficial? As you see, we have a large number of hikikomori. We have previous psychiatric treatment, and then we also have a large number of them who are actually depending heavily on medications. So if you see a psychiatrist to cure your hikikomori problem, does it really help?
Yes, I would like to ask one question about the psychiatric treatment. Is it possible for a family to take the psychiatric prescription for the patient? Just to see the doctors, the patient is not seen, he's or she's. Is it possible to take the prescriptions? Really?
It wasn't many years back, but then yes.
Yes, yes. I think this is one of the main problems, that the people are just taking prescriptions, because I have watched YouTube videos about hikikomori yesterday. 2 or 3 of them were very understandable and informative for me. I saw students, young adults, having lots of drugs on the table in the room, and he says they are giving it to me. I don't know about them. I have already mixed the regimen of the treatment. And so I just realized whether the family took the prescriptions before the children.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, the family takes it for them. And then sometimes when they actually come out from hikikomori or when they seek treatment, because it's actually a guideline nowadays.
Yes.
We want the hikikomori people to seek help. So they advertise it, and there are still like a number of people who never go out from the house. But if you look into it's actually a meme
Mm-hmm.
because actually hikikomori does go out, and then sometimes it's like about 1 month they stay in the room, they stay
Yes.
in and then they go out for about a week, and then they come back again for another few months.
It's yes, I see. It's in ups and downs. Okay.
Up and down.
Okay.
If that happened to if that happened to have a self-harm behavior, or if they ever kill themselves,
Yes.
then
So
they will be admitted to hospital.
yes, that's why
And then
I understand in the videos there were some antipsychotic prescriptions for hikikomori, and so I couldn't understand. Well, I could understand the benzodiazepines or sleep drugs, because when they are in their room, they cannot sleep well because of the sleep cycle. So what about the antipsychotics? I think that's the reason. Maybe they had some burst outs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's again very difficult situations. Later I will probably ask Mika to explain.
Yes, please. Yes.
Mika, she was in this school refusal, and then she was in this total isolation, and then but she was not psychotic, but it's just that she doesn't see people, and then she felt so inferior because her mom is always saying that you need to do this, you need to do that, and that you're not good enough. So she has always been having this inferior in herself. But then when during there was an episode when she felt that when she was very confused, and she was sent to the she was kind of like she was sent to the clinic, and then in the clinic she was saying that I don't know why I live, I think I should die. So why do you think I should die? I mean, why do you think you should die? And then she says that, I don't know. I just feel that maybe I should die. And then the doctor would have already given her a schizophrenic diagnosis.
Yes.
Just at the time.
I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I can understand why was that. But then after the medications, after the antipsychotic drugs, she actually become worse.
Yes, you sleep more, or yes, I know. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So in fact, there were actually many people that I see, especially child and adolescents, that have bullying, and then they have traumas, and then although they were being away from these situations, but because the community is still very small, even you are no longer being bullied by the person, you have changed, but the community is actually very small. And so you still remember things, and people have fear not going to school. And when you ask them why they're not going to school, they say, because I'm afraid that people might bully me, or because I felt that I'm worthless, I don't have self-value. But then the questions or the treatment or the focus will not be how to help the person to overcome these problems. It's more about, so you need treatment, so you need to get a drug. And you need to get the drug, you need to see a doctor, and the doctor will make you go back to school.
Yes, this is the first start. I understand. Yes.
A lot of times when these children, they are being presented to the clinics, and if you look into how our system works here, if you look into Japan, in most of the places you have mental health workers who are composite by general practitioners, and then psychiatrists, psychologists, and mental health nurses. But in Japan, you can see we don't have general practitioners who serve as the buffer. We don't have this buffer. So as long as you present a psychiatric symptoms, you are being presented to the psychiatrist.
First of all, to the psychiatry. Okay.
First of all, to the psychiatrist. And then the psychiatrist will give you prescriptions if you need psychologists. And most of the time you can see is very, very little. And you have a high number of mental health nurses.
How do they help mental health nurses? How do they help the situation? No?
No, you can't.
You can't help before the psychiatrists?
No.
I see.
The psychiatrist needs to be the first step. So the The mental health nurses, they will probably either be stationed in the community centers where it is on rehabilitations.
Yes.
Because it's cheaper than hiring a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And they will also be in the daycare center.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will also be in the ward.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is one of the reasons that you can see why probably there will depends on medications more than even they will give prescriptions of medications. And if you look into this is the people, we have about like 13, maybe 15 people towards 100,000 people, 15 psychiatrists for 100,000 people. So you can see that the time given to the patients can be very, very short. So again, it will be heavily depending on medications as well. And yes, let's look at some other possible risk factors for hikikomori. So this is, we try to look into the individual family relationship characteristics. And this is what we find. We try to look into different things. They talk to their parents. Is their parent too strict? When there are problems, can the parents be empathetic? But we don't really see much difference. But with this blue one, and then with this red one. Then the blue one, you can see that probably, we don't really have much higher numbers, but we do see quite difference. But it is not enough to be significant. So let us look at those that are significant. Discussing problems with family won't help anything. And I had a serious illness. Parents were overprotective. Parents were meddling too much. So these are risk factors. And you can see there are also protective factors as well. Like we always talk to each other. We are very close. I'm well loved by my family.
These are the protective factors.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a bit more, but it's still very different with the non-hikikomoris.
Yes.
Yeah. Hikikomori would have less that they felt that they talk to each other, but then still not too bad in the current family relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's good because they have no one else, right? Except for their family members.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But if you look into this childhood family relationship experience, you can see that parents, overprotective parents, are probably the highest.
Yes, this reminds me about the childhood emotional neglect or emotional abuse.
Yeah.
It's one of the main topics of the adverse childhood experience. This could not be a trauma or invisible physical or sexual trauma, but the emotional neglect, emotional coldness or insufficiency, I think it's quite important in the presentation of hikikomori.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go to the second one.
Okay.
So we won't talk about this. We won't talk about this. So we'll talk about this.
Yes.
Hikikomori treatment guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the official guideline that is by the government on hikikomori treatment. So first, you meet the parents. Then from the parents, you support the parents, and then you go to the person and you get personal support. And then when you have supported them, you bring them out for transition.
Mm-hmm.
So you have group therapy, you have ibasho, you have individual therapy, and family support. If you look into ibasho, there's actually these two. Ibasho is always very important. It's a place to feel belong. And
can you tell about ibasho more? Do you use it in daily Japanese language for our house, for our school or workplace? Is it a common expression?
Yes, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a place to feel belong.
Yes.
There, the Japanese culture is very different in that sense. I felt shocked as well, because when I look into Ibasho, when I say it's a place to feel belong, it can actually be our home, it can actually be our workplace, it can actually be our school, you know, when you feel belong.
It's a belonging feeling. Okay.
Yes, the belonging feeling. But then in Japan, they actually not create this word, is that when you use Ibasho, it actually means like having a place for people who doesn't fit into anything to stay there. This is when they use it, especially when they use it in hikikomori. But when you use it in literature, it would be like the way how we use it. Like you feel being yourself, you feel like being home, you feel like being belong, attachment.
Yes, you go there without a pressure. You just want to go there. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But then for hikikomori, because they don't really have this place, so we will create a ibasho.
Yes, you create another ibasho. I mean, not another. You create an ibasho that's absent. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and you see that these two, in this one, the green one, you can see that it's quite relaxed, right? But you see this one, this is quite rigid.
Yes.
With the formal attire.
Yes.
So for hikikomori, especially when they are in their 30s or late 20s, it will be very difficult for them to obey or to go into this, because they are already out of the track too long. And looking at this one, it will make people very, very scared. So what we do is we think that we need flexibility and social structure. And so I will now explain what I did and how I integrate this research into the practice, into what we do in the cafe.
Yes, please. Yes, let's see the cafe. I was so surprised to see it when we first have the meeting. Yes, this is the cafe. Yes.
Yeah, so this is where we meet for rehabilitations.
Yes, this is a rehabilitation center actually.
Yes.
But we don't say it like this. Yes, this is Ibasho.
Yes, this is Ibasho. Right, you get the
Yeah.
Okay.
What does she say?
She say, ah.
Oh, yes.
So, in my first, this is my first study on hikikomori. I actually interviewed about 128 people, and we have about like 8 people who are really in their hikikomori state. So we realized that hikikomori has a problem with coping, and even hikikomori itself is probably a coping mechanism for them. So, and they have a difficulty in trusting others. They also have difficulties in trusting themselves. They don't even believe in themselves. And they have this problem of assistance. I don't know when will this end. I don't know why am I doing. I don't know who am I. And I don't know why do I need to leave. So the question that I asked during this study, there was only one question that I asked. What do you think about hikikomori lifestyle that you have? You know, can you tell us what you think it is about? So from there we put this tree. We developed these 3 categories. So with this, I started to have field work, and then I started to visit a few other places to see if there are other hikikomoris. And in fact, after that, I also did some home visits. And then we come back to, and I landed in Japan, and that's when I continued to do my counter theory based on what I had from here. And then this is what I continued later. And then I began to see that hikikomori, you will probably have 2 periods. One is incubation period, and another one is onset period. And we talk about incubation period is more about childhood rearing. That is when they develop during the childhood development. They have very low self-evaluation. And when I say low self-evaluation, it doesn't mean that they don't have it doesn't mean they don't have self-confidence. They can have a good self-confidence. I can do that. And even some of them that were actually national players, they can be PhD students, graduate students, but they have very low self-evaluation. So this low self-evaluation is actually low self-affirmation because they have always set their values on themselves based on what other things themselves. So like people who have a religion, believe in God, it's probably more about like what God thinks I am than I am. Even if other people think that I'm not good, I'm good in God's eyes.
Yes.
If you have a good teacher.
Yes.
But in Japan, they don't have this system. They don't believe in God. And then, so it's more about what their parents think themselves are.
Yes. So the very early relationship between the children, like little kid and the mother and father, the way of attachment, the way of mirroring, the way of self concept, self perception, how mothers and fathers reflect on their children is quite important for the starting point. Yes.
Yes. And again, you will probably see a lot of men being hikikomori, right? And you also have heard about like attachment to mom on hikikomori. So,
Sen eksiksin sildiğim yerde. Hadi çeki bakayım şurada. Alo.
Pardon, mikrofonu kapatabilir miyiz? Yes. Just a little remind for the microphones. Okay.
So what happened in Japan is actually during bubble economy or during the rapid growth, what they do is they encourage fathers to go work alone by themselves. So men, when they started to work, they get married to get a higher position. And once they have a family, the company will normally get them to put down their family and then bring them to next city to work. And you don't resign because you have a family that you need to raise. And you have to pay your child education and a lot of things. But then you don't be with your family so that you can work.
So the family, the nuclear family and the people are apart from each other?
Yes, correct. So a lot of time you will have family who have children that are only living with mom. And sometimes the fathers come back only in the weekend, or sometimes come back only once in a month, or sometimes they get together only once in a year.
Yes, this was a surprising fact also in the videos of Hikikomori. I always saw the mothers cooking, preparing meal, looking after the Hikikomori, anxious about the state, feeling sad or feeling sometimes very angry, but no fathers. So fathers are somehow away from home, away from, okay, this is quite important for the attachment process again.
Yes, correct. So this is actually the society-made, a man-made attachment process.
Okay.
Because the mom has no one to depend on, the mom depends on their children. And the children depends on their mom. And there's no father figure for the man. I mean, for the boys. So it would be very difficult. And everything would be my mom's evaluations on me. And when you go to school, when you start to go to school, you have more time spending in school to study. And then you will have very, very little time with your parents. Then the next stage in the school in Japan is more about working together in a group. So again, yourself, there's no self, but it will be a group image on self.
On self, yes. That is very much more important than the self-image. Yes, I see.
So when they have very low self-evaluation, and then they will also have interpersonal difficulties. So the interpersonal difficulties is about they don't know when they should speak about themselves, how they should be open up themselves, how can they talk to people about their problems, because it's supposed to be everybody the same. So if one people have problems, everybody has problems. If no one has problems, then I shouldn't have problems.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the mindsets. And then if you have very unhealthy family upbringing,
Yes.
and then you have a very unhealthy school environment and friendship environment in that sense, then you have identity crisis,
Yes.
which they do not understand why I actually does this. So with this, even if they can be very successful in what they do, but because they don't know why they do it, they are just doing it to satisfy others' expectations, then that's come the problems. But this problem will not actually become so huge if they don't have this onset period. So hikikomori normally happens during transition period, like when they change classes.
Yes, from high school to university, or from
primary school to secondary school.
Secondary to high school, yes.
Secondary school to high school, high school to university, from university when they go to work. So it's always in the transition, and sometimes it's always when they leave their home to stay by themselves.
Yes.
And sometimes even in some schools you have class reforms, so they kind of sticks together for about like few years, and then they split them out to be with another group. And because they are so close already with the intact group, they do not know how to perform, because in one group you set your identity within that groups, right? That is what the group wants. But because they have been not honest to themselves, they were just playing along. So when you split them out from to another group, so now there's a different group culture. What you have always been pretending to keep you strong, it doesn't work in this group.
Yes.
So they find themselves unfit, and they try to play along again. So if people who are very serious in, especially during like child and adolescence, we will have this period of time that's self-searching, right? So if the person is self-searching,
yes,
yeah. So there's a time that you need to break through. You need to find yourself. You need to have that what do you call affirmation?
Yes.
So for people who really stick to find that, and then they cannot play along with others anymore, that would be very difficult for them. So they either become delinquent, or they either become very oppressive.
Very oppressive. What's the age period of this self-searching, mostly in Japan?
Well, I don't know, but normally in Japan, there's this phrase, delayed adolescency.
Yeah, the same in Turkey. Yes. As because the education goes longer and longer, the end of adolescence doesn't come actually.
Yes, it's the same.
The same,
so in Japan, many people doesn't have adolescence.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe it will be sometimes for 30s, late 20s, 30s.
Yes. Yes. I think it is when they have the onset.
Yes.
When they find that they were being isolated, when they don't find a job, or when they don't find a clique, when they don't have a sense of belonging, when they find that there's no way out. That is the time when the adolescence becomes, open up.
Open up, yes, and try to find a new identity, whether it's hikikomori or it's delinquency or it's normalcy. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and then with all this, we find that it's actually parent-child attachment, and then in adaptation, sense of guilt, self-distrust, mental disorder, and then internet addiction. Probably they play a lot internet because they don't see people, but are not internet addictions. But it's more about fearing abandonment and imbalance. So that's how he starts to have this idea of the house of hikikomori. We call it HIKIYA. And then, you put it the name of flat.
Yes, it's the musical sign. Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So this flat, it also
Flat.
means that there's no boundaries.
Mhm.
Flat.
Yes. Anytime.
So anytime, anyway, and
Yes.
also a minor key.
It's a minor key. Yes.
And then flats in English is also like an apartment where you have many people staying.
Yes, interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you are not alone.
Yes.
You are in your apartment. So
But
this apartment, one room for one
Yes.
person, but
Yes.
then you are not alone.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So we are creating this idea of ibasho, feeling home, and we are probably trying to create a sense of home. So we established it in 2015, and then this is Akita Prefecture. This is where we are.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the needs in Akita, you can read about this. Akita actually has the highest suicide rate in Japan. And then we have the highest number of elderly people, kind of, lowest GDP, and also highest suicide rates among the 40 to 69, and also highest among the 20s. So we estimate there's about 60,000 people who are hikikomori in hikikomori states in Akita. And in Akita, Akita is huge. So we are having our place in Magari, which is fireworks.
The
A
fireworks.
Yeah, you need to come. It's
Yes.
3-hour fireworks.
Really? What's the next travel? We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know if we will have fireworks this year.
Yeah. Hopefully next year.
So in this small town, we're probably about like 5,000 hikikomori in this Daisen city itself. Okay, so the community approach. So I want you to look into this picture. This is Misaki.
Misaki.
Yes.
Yes.
This is her happiest moment. This was last year.
Last year, yes.
Yeah.
The March last year, yes.
This was her happiest moment. This is also her happiest moment.
Oh, thanks God. Yes.
Can you see the difference?
Yes, it's obvious.
So I asked her, are you happy at that time? She said, yeah, I'm very happy. And that was her.
Yes, I see.
It was her face experience.
It's so subjective.
It's very subjective.
Yes.
So from isolation to integration. So a lot of time when hikikomori presented us, they have no facial expressions. They are very emotionless. They don't talk. They don't have any signals. They don't do any signs. There's basically just very little context that you can try to contact with the person. So it was kind of difficult in the beginning.
Were they was this their usual presentation when they were in their childhood periods? This resembles me autistic type of social relationship. How can you compare or make a difference from autistic spectrum and hikikomori in the way of facial expressions?
I don't know, because when they come to us, they are already adults. Yeah, so we don't really see how they're actually been through their childhood. But according to the person's own descriptions, I'm fine. I was fine.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So
we are not sure.
Yes,
I think they are traits. Like many of them, when they come to us, they tell us about their stories when they get along with us. They talk about their stories when they were kids, like they will kind of like stare on something. And then when like everybody is going to, in Japan, you just have to move in a group. So and everybody moves in a group. Yeah. And I'm stuck with this. I'm still thinking about this. So I will be like just thinking about this. I just ignore other people.
Okay.
Yeah, they will have this kind of symptoms.
Yes, okay.
And then they will be scolded by their parents or by their teachers. It's like, why can't you be like others?
Yes, it's hard.
So we have this IPS and Prepare the Excellence, which is something that we try to be catchy. So IPS is more for you to remember, impartial, personal, and sharing. Prepare the Excellence is also a catchphrase, which actually we are talking about the present with pre, pair, past, relationship. Excellence is about expand and extend. So what we are trying to do here is, we'll explain that later. So the point of successful intervention in our center, we have only this. We want them to stay in the program for duration more than 6 months. That is how we see it as a success, because we know that hikikomori patterns is they will stay for more than 6 months in their room or in their house, and then they go out for a short period, like 1 week, 2 weeks, and then they go again. It will be like, you know, stay 2 years, stay in 2 years, go out for 1 year, or, you know, they won't go out for 1 year, probably like 3 months. Yeah, so we want them to stay in the program at least for more than 6 months. And then we want them to build relationship with others. We want them to share their experience with others. And we also want to increase their outgoing frequencies. Like in the beginning, they will come like once a month. And then after that, when they feel comfortable, they will just coming alongside. And then later they will probably come like every day in a week. We operate 5 days, but we never set criteria. We never set the criteria, but we just encourage.
So this rehabilitation Ibasho is closed on weekends?
No, we close on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thursday and Wednesday. Good. Okay.
Yeah. So we want to open in the weekend so that they can come.
Yes,
because
it's much easier. Yes, because they might go to school or they might have some work, some of them, yes.
Yeah. So we also look at them if they would have richer facial expressions, if they have readiness to learn and enter the support program. Support program is different with the Ibasho.
Yes.
And physical and psychological symptoms, would that improve? So this is how we set it up. We set it up as a community-based intervention. So this place is in the middle of the town, not so busy, but it's kind of the tail of the busy streets.
Yes.
So you can actually come here by avoiding the busy streets, but you also can pick busy streets to come here.
It's optional. You can just decide. That's good. Easy.
So, and then we actually kind of like talk to the community people around here, telling them we are actually setting up this place. And then now people will actually see them as a part of this group, when there will be like young people who just wandering around. Even they are not belong to this place, but people say, oh, okay, that person is just wandering around, so that person must belong to this place. So we kind of have recommendations right now.
I see. It's
because this is very important, because you will feel very awkward when you are actually walking in the street, when every people is supposed to be working. So it's like only the old people walking on the streets, or very young people walking on the street, or housewives. But then in this case, what we want to do is you create a safe environment where people, you can mingle around. You can be jobless, but then people will see you as like weird dudes. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important for the view of the perception of others on him or her while entering to the center. So this is quite important to be a little bit anonymous than very overt. Yes.
So what we did during our first program was we tried to we actually had a program to involve the elderly people in this place. We did a foot washing program.
So they help older people.
Yes.
That's good. I didn't know that.
It was only once.
Okay.
It was only once, to create like kind of like a friendly environment, and also to help the Hikikomori to serve the elderly people. Yeah, so it was only one.
Okay.
So we run it for about like a month, and then now we stop, and then we keep doing different things because we want to create different platforms. So Ibasho, a place where one belongs. So it's a peer-run self-help groups. So what we need to do, what we want to aim for is caring, confrontation, and growth. So it's personal independent support. There's a guided training program and sharing and study group. So they will share among themselves, they will study among themselves, they will truly sharing, they're re-examining themselves through sharing.
Yes.
And then, okay, this is how it looks like. So from 2013 to 2018, our clients categories, regular program users, we have a balance of male and female.
That's quite good.
Then
on behalf of females. Yes.
Yes. And when the age started to join the center, we have more in their 20s and 30s.
Yes, mostly 20s. But I can see 3 people on their 50s, and it's so both surprising and a very good thing to mix the people of all ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then current age, for those who are still in 20s, they are 13.
Yes.
Because you have more 20, but it will be at the later stage of their 20, like 28, 29, that was when they first joined the center.
Okay.
Okay. And then area, this is Daisen, this is this place. We have quite 60% from here, the local people. And then the not local people are about 40%. So when they came in, they were with Hikikomori syndrome. This is 35. Those who had went for psychiatric treatment and follow-up is 31 of them, 31 over 35. And those who were diagnosed as schizophrenia, 15 over 35. Loneliness, people who are not, they don't think that they are Hikikomori, but then they felt they were very lonely. So this is 16, and then those who have psychiatric treatment was 11, but none of them were schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, okay.
Okay. Hikikomori period before joining the facilities, 1 to 5 years is 17, 5 years to 10 years is 5, more than 10 years, 10.
More than 10 years, you had 10 Hikikomori. It's quite high, I guess.
Yeah, that is before they joined the facilities.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are also people who don't want to tell.
Yes, it's reasonable.
They didn't really know they lost. Yeah. So this is how it is like the time frame in the center. So because every year we will have different users. So the people who continued until 2018. So we have 9 from the 22 who actually continue for 5 years, for 6 years. Yeah. And then this is how it looks like. So we need to look at the changes after joining the center. This is multiple. This is very subjective from my side of view. So we can see that more people have enjoyed interactions with others. And then there are also more increased outgoing frequencies, and also continuing rate is good at 50% of them. But you can see there are also 1/4 of them, none of the above. They didn't change. There's no change. Before and after, not much difference.
Yes.
And then, so this is again our client composition. We'll talk about this. And then, so this is kind of the activities that we have. So we spend time together, we do staff training, we train them as speakers to share about themselves. And then we have like we have speaking engagement, performance, sign language.
That's good.
Sometimes we interact with others, teach students. Students will come here to learn. And then we have art therapy, counseling sometimes. we don't really do much art therapy these days, because the reason when we do that is that when they cannot open themselves, when they do not know how to speak, we will try using art therapy to help them to express.
Yes.
And then we will use art therapy as a tool to, you know, to talk about the ideas.
Yes. Is it the painting or handcraft or what else?
We will ask them to draw the THP,
Okay.
the treehouse person.
Okay.
The house person will be the main, and also we have art therapy. And then we also do this mandala.
Mandala. Yes, it's very popular nowadays in Turkey also. Yes.
What we do is not we do something like this.
This is, yes.
So
Oh, these are nice mandalas. Yes.
Yeah, we create our own mandala, and then we start from the middle, and then we just do repetitive drawings.
Yes. I think it's very personal. They decide which mandala they choose.
Oh, they don't see the thing. It's just from inside.
Inside. So it's very unique.
Yeah, there's no copy. So we ask them to do this these days for art therapy. We'll ask them to draw mandala in their journals, like they will draw the mandalas.
Yes.
And it's kind of like helping them to communicate with us when we need it. Yeah, but these days we don't really do that much of therapy, because these days there even a new hikikomori, when it comes in, will be just, I don't know, it just absorb very fast with peers around.
It's the climate, I think. It's the atmosphere. Yes. I can imagine.
So in the first 2-3 years, I often have a lot more people who come in who will be like very intense, and then it will be still very intense after half year. But now we have people who come in very intense, then after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, they become very relaxed.
It's good. Good to hear about this. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe it's also because of the change in hikikomori patterns.
And the awareness about the situation, I think. It's now, we can talk about this, we can have a meeting, a Zoom meeting about hikikomori. It's getting obvious and reachable, I think. If you talk about something, tell about the differences, thanks to the hikikomori people that are telling their experiences, it becomes obvious, reachable. That's the point. Yes.
So very important things that we want to do in children is we ask them, or we encourage them to acknowledge their present, to accept themselves. I'm hikikomori, but it's okay to be hikikomori. It's nothing ashamed of it. And then to be open about the past. So they will be very open if they were on drugs, or if they were, having a diagnosis, or they don't have diagnosis. If they have failure, if they don't have failure, we talk about the past a lot. So it's kind of a part of our therapy. And then we rebuild relationships. This part is always longer, takes longer to do it. But then we expand their interests and we expand their abilities. So we value their interests, like if they like to sing, if they like to draw, if they like to do something. I think it's just normal counseling. Every time we do this, right? We just expand interest and expand the abilities in them.
So you go over these last topics after and after all the time. You stress the abilities. Okay.
Yes, every time. We will do it not like in a program form, but it's like just normal. When people gather together, then we will start to have talk groups. Then we will start to do this. We will start to do that. Just bring people around. And we also have peer staffs, which is hikikomori themselves. Now they are kind of like in the support program. When they're in the support program, we make them as staff. We also give them money. Then they are paid. So I think having peer staff actually helps them to absorb themselves, and because they are still hikikomori themselves. But then it kind of like help. It's like they are mirroring themselves. And then the new hikikomori come in and see, oh, there's a hikikomori senpai who is a staff. So I can be a staff like her as well when I recover. Or I can, I don't think I want to be a staff. I want to do something better. So it kind of like give them hope and kind of like challenge.
Yes, challenging is quite good sometimes, you know, when you want to do different things. Yes.
Yeah.
And I also have seen a Facebook group of Hikikomori support group in the Facebook, because I saw that they just shared our meeting details. So I also saw the Zoom meeting details of Hikikomori group. Do they have a Zoom meeting over the computer?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
Yes, our group. That's actually our
yes,
group.
this is your group, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we now start to have this Zoom meeting because
Yes.
there are people who cannot go out.
Yes, exactly.
So we kind of like do online meetings. And then actually next week we will have a person sharing through Zoom and Facebook Live as well.
That's good. So you use other kinds of communication when you cannot come to face nowadays. It's a very unusual period, I know, but I was curious about this. Yes.
So I think this is very much about the whole presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Would you like to ask questions or please?
Yes, maybe is it possible to see the rehabilitation area a little bit? Yes.
You can show. 説明して。一番説明したいところがあれば。
Thank you. Yes, this is the area, and yes, this is the kitchen area, I guess.
Yes, that's
over
the kitchen area. That's where she works. It's our patissier.
Yes.
Cheesecakes.
I see. And thank you.
That is the library.
Yes. This is the library area, living room-like area, and you also had a piano, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, the piano is over there. Yes. Tea time. Okay, there are also some questions coming. For example, Professor Erhan Doğan again asks, claims that we should also add the architects to namely urban planners and psychiatrists. So the architecture is so formative, I think, the city architecture. So he also says that, for example, the urban planners and psychiatrists would come together and redesign our living places. So we avoid those kind of disorders, because a lot of connections with our social settings are developed by our by the buildings. So this would increase the possibility of alienation from the self. I think there are lots of people living alone in Japan. Am I right?
Not
so much.
Not so much unless they are working outside. Once they start to work, or once they go to universities, they stay alone by themselves. The norm.
And the ones who are retired, after retirement, do they stand alone? Or
no, they live with their family if they have a family.
They have families, okay.
But many people doesn't have a family these days because the marriage rate is very low.
I see. Yes, because I was trying to understand the loneliness after the retirement. So if they didn't get married, so they are alone all the time. Okay. I see. Yes. One of our colleagues, Dr. Barış Usta, says that he was always astonished by the Japanese cultural syndromes in DSM nomenclature. So he would like to thank to you for explaining the patient's experiences. And he asks about another syndrome, if it's related to hikikomori. Tajin
Yes.
Kuyofusho, is it related to hikikomori?
I
What's
think
it?
so.
I don't know about the syndrome.
Yes, it is. It is. Taijinko Kyofusho is actually like very close to social phobia, but it's not social phobia. The person can become very panicked, especially towards the comments of the elderly, the people who are higher rank than them, like from the teachers, from the supervisors. So it is very much Taijin Kyofusho. But then Hikikomori is a bit more than that, because Hikikomori, people with Taijin Kyofusho, many of them, they still manage to work. And many people that do have Taijin Kyofusho, whether it's at the extreme or not, whether it's established in extreme or not. So, and Hikikomori, their self-value is very much with Taijin Kyofusho, but I felt the major threats that they have is actually with their parents instead of with other people.
So this could be a breaking point from the university when the teachers make comments on the students' work or their abilities or examination marks. Could it be a breaking point and starting hikikomori?
Yes, for some, yes. School refusal, yes. It would definitely be a breaking point for depression.
Okay.
And avoidance behavior.
Avoidance, yes. This is the starting point then.
The starting point as well. And lots of times, Taijin Kyofusho is not only about criticism. It's about like, I feel that the person is going to criticize me. If like Mika is my boss, I will be like so nervous because I feel that Mika would probably criticize me. Maybe she doesn't like me. Then I'll be so nervous when I talk to her. It's like, and even if she raised her eyebrow, I'll be like, yeah.
Yes.
In fact, there's lots of hikikomori people who have Taijin Kyofusho. Let's ask Mika.
Yes. Yes, please. What's Mika's experience? Mika, did you have this Taijin Kyofusho before?
Quite. I'm afraid. I don't know how to approach the person. I would see the situation and think.
I would also like to ask, what was her first feelings when she first came to Ibasho?
いいね。なんか、ここに居場所に来て、初めて来たときに、どういう感じですか？変なこと言って。いいよ。I felt that the atmosphere was very different. お昼、なんだろう。なんか、なんだろう。現実なのか現実じゃないのかよく分かんなかったような気がする。なんかみんな対応なんだろう。変だよね。それはちょっとね。変だよね。逆にゆきちゃんたちとか、その話し合いとか、自分なぜ話したとか。そうね。やっぱり私が来たときに、when I first came, そのスタッフさんがいらしてくれて、there were staffs, there were peer staffs, and Roseline was there as well. 私の隣に座った女性のスタッフさんが、there was a lady staff, a lady peer staff that was beside me at that time.
で、その時に一人一人自分のことを、今までのことを話すということになっていって、
And then that was this first, when I first came, there was this section that we talk about ourselves, what happened to us, why are we here?
その方が自分のことを話しになるときに、こう、スタートを書いていらっしゃって、スタートの人をこうギュッと掴みながら話をしていて、で、なんかそれを横だったから見ていて、なんだろう、私も自分のことを話すのが怖かったというか、受け入れてもらえるんだろうかっていう心の葛藤があって、で、その方がどういう思いでその裾を握っていたのかはわからないんですけれども、でもその握るということは、すごくこう、頑張っているように見えたから、それを見て、信じれるかもしれないって思ったんです。
Today, when we were sharing about our past, so what happened to her was there was a lady staff, her name was Yuki, she was sitting beside her, and then when she was sharing about her story, she could see that she was trying very hard to talk about herself, explain her situations to make her feel comfortable. And when Yuki did that, Yuki was actually grabbing her skirts with her hands, and she could see that she's very nervous, and that was she doesn't know why she did that, but she felt that it was very close to what she felt inside herself, because she has this problem as well. I don't know if other people will accept me, what I think, what I say, or is it true that people will really accept me? So that she was keep having this struggle in herself.
Yes.
And she was working with, when she was sitting beside this Yuki, and then she saw what Yuki did. So she felt that, maybe this is the place, this person I can trust. I can trust this place because these people are trying very hard. They are going through the same thing as what I am. So she kind of felt that was how she felt.
Thank you very much. Domo arigato, Mika. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Everybody says greetings and thanks, many thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience, showing your rehabilitation center, sharing a very valuable information about the unusual phenomenon. It's always very nice to hear about you, listen to you. I always get some new information. It was the first time I learned about Hikikomori in Calgary, Canada in 2016. It was how unusual. Now I grasp more and more each time I listen to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody says thanks, many thanks from our colleagues. I will also send the chat messages to you afterwards about the thanks area. And do you have any few sentences or remarks before we leave the meeting?
Yeah, maybe you want to ask any question? 何か質問したい？もう最後だから。
Okay, ありがとう。
質問あります？
Excuse me? Yes.
質問、そうだな。
田村、Hello, yes?
Hello.
Hello.
How about the hikikomori situation in Turkey?
Hikikomori, yes. Most of my colleagues also wrote remarks and questions about Hikikomori in Turkey. Now, I think we will think a more experienced way to understand people, because there are some students, sometimes high school students or university students, that are spending their time in their home rather than going to school. Maybe the school population will be the first target for us afterwards. We thought that it was a part of autistic regression, or it's a part of depression. Lots of the colleagues asked about how about internet addiction and hikikomori. We sometimes maybe we tell them they are addicted to the internet. But now I learn more about the psychological components of hikikomori that we will search. Actually, nowadays there is no research about hikikomori in Turkey. But after this presentation, I think we will search and decide about asking it.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you
Arigato
very much.
gozaimasu. Yes.
ありがとうございます。
Yes.
So I will end this with a few remarks. With
Okay.
these remarks, yeah. So we're talking about if global economic recession will cause a rise in hikikomori phenomenon. So many people don't have jobs because of the bad economic situations. And then probably it's time to rethink of social structure and economical structure.
Yes.
So we have economy that supports employment. And from this employment, it supports the individual. But maybe we should reverse it.
We will see.
In bad times, it's actually reversing it. But because everybody has a good time after World War, and then a lot of society has actually a very good system. So it's actually economy that shapes employment and employment that shapes individuals. But probably it is time for us, because there's no more economy, there's no more employment, so probably it will be needs to reverse.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we actually do in the cafe a lot of times, I think there's a word that can very close, which is resilience. I think we are very much building resilience, and this is the common thing about resilience that people teach in English classes. So the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. She's a resilient girl. She won't be unhappy for long. So I'm not sure, but then I think there's this key. If people have more resilience factors like being optimism, facing fear, moral compass, meaning, find purpose and growth, social support, role models, training, brain fitness, diligence, spirituality, maybe that will help to build resilience. But as you see, when they say resilience is confidence, competence.
Yes.
I think in hikikomori, it's not really about, I think in hikikomori, the confidence is very much about self-affirmation. And the competence, again, it comes back to this. This setting is really difficult for resilience.
Yes, yes, and we don't know about the coming future. Yes.
So we don't know if resilience can help, but then I think a stronger psychological impact or a stronger inner build insight would probably help to reshape this. Maybe we reverse the arrow.
Yes, who knows? Hopefully.
Because in Japan, actually during the rapid economic growth, it was a reverse instead of this. Yeah. So we don't know, but then this is how I'm going to end this.
Yes, thank you very much. We have spent a full 2 hours mostly with the presentation and the comments. Thanks for the people who are attending to our meeting, both the Turkish and the Japanese. I am so glad to be together with the two countries, two cultures through this meeting. it's, you know, life is full of surprises. Maybe one of the resilient point is meeting together, meeting each of us, although we cannot meet face to face. I hope we will be meeting later in further meetings, further
Yes.
topics. I would love to meet. I would love to discuss the things together. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Have a safe, healthy day and week. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Thank you so much.
Teşekkürler bütün katılımcılara. Herkese sağlıklı, mutlu günler diliyorum. Hoşça kalın.